After spending an entire summer turning himself into one of the biggest breakout stars American sports fans had ever adopted, Erling Haaland has now packed up his Viking helmet, said his goodbyes to the United States, and headed back across the Atlantic to resume life as a Manchester City player. That simple, almost mundane transition, a professional athlete returning to preseason training, has somehow become its own talking point among American fans who spent 6 weeks growing genuinely attached to this towering Norwegian striker. In this video, we are going to walk through exactly what Haaland's return to England looks like, break down the new chapter waiting for him at Manchester City, explore the specific challenges and opportunities ahead of him this season, and unpack why American audiences have found themselves emotionally invested in even this relatively ordinary next step of his career. So let us get into everything unfolding right now. To understand why this return carries extra weight, you have to remember exactly what Haaland is coming off of. He led Norway to their first World Cup appearance since 1998, scored 7 goals across the tournament, tied a 50-year-old record for goals scored in a debut World Cup campaign, and became a genuine household name across America in the process. That kind of tournament does not simply end quietly once the final whistle blows. It creates a strange kind of emotional hangover for fans who spent weeks building a connection with a player from a country most of them had barely thought about before this summer. So when reports confirmed that Haaland was due back in England ahead of Manchester City's pre-season schedule, it landed less like a routine transaction and more like the closing chapter of a story American fans had been completely absorbed in. Before we get into exactly what awaits him at Manchester City, take a second to hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed, because we are covering every twist in Haaland's journey as it continues beyond the World Cup. It only takes a second, and it genuinely helps the channel. Alright, let us keep going. What makes Haaland's return especially significant is the sheer amount of change happening at Manchester City in his absence. After a decade defined by Pep Guardiola's management, City are entering a new era entirely, with former Chelsea boss Enzo Maresca now taking charge of a young squad that has already experienced considerable turnover over the past year and a half. Haaland will be walking back into a very different environment than the one he left before the World Cup, with a new manager, a new tactical philosophy, and a roster still being shaped through the ongoing transfer window. Reports confirm that Haaland, along with fellow deep tournament participant and City's record signing Elliot Anderson, was expected back in training shortly before the club's Community Shield fixture against Arsenal, giving him only a brief window to recover before diving straight into preparations for a new Premier League campaign. Part of what makes this return so intriguing is the uncertainty surrounding exactly how Maresca intends to use his star striker. Guardiola's system had built itself heavily around Haaland's specific strengths as a penalty box predator over the past several seasons, but Maresca made his name at Chelsea with a possession-heavy, positionally fluid style of play that places different demands on a lead striker. Analysts and commentators have already begun speculating about whether Haaland's game will need to evolve to fit this new system, or whether Maresca will simply adjust his broader tactical philosophy around keeping his most dangerous weapon fed with the same service that made him one of the most prolific scorers in Premier League history. Either way, this transition represents the first real tactical adjustment of Haaland's Manchester City career, adding a layer of genuine sporting intrigue to what might otherwise have been a straightforward return from international duty. Rather than easing back into things quietly, Haaland's return comes right as Manchester City prepare for an ambitious pre-season tour of East Asia. The club is scheduled to face Italian giants Inter Milan in Hong Kong, followed by matches against a K-League All-Stars side and Atletico Madrid in Seoul, South Korea, giving fans across an entirely different part of the world a chance to see him in action again just weeks after his World Cup heroics. That international tour underscores just how much Haaland's presence continues to matter on a global scale, with City clearly building portions of their preseason marketing and schedule around showcasing their biggest star as he steps back into club football following such a historic tournament run. The tour also serves a practical purpose beyond marketing, giving Maresca valuable match time to experiment with lineup combinations and begin implementing his tactical ideas before the pressure of competitive fixtures begins. Even before his official return, Haaland had already made clear how much he was looking forward to getting back into the swing of club football. In comments made during the World Cup itself, he spoke enthusiastically about representing Manchester City going forward, emphasizing his love of joking around and enjoying the moment as much as focusing on serious preparation, a mindset that fans had already come to associate with his personality throughout the tournament. Reports following the World Cup noted that there had been no indication whatsoever of any restlessness or desire to leave Manchester City, despite his newfound global superstardom, with City hopeful that he will continue building his legacy in England for years to come, as the club looks to bridge the transition between Guardiola's storied tenure and Maresca's fresh start. It is worth pausing here to appreciate just how remarkable Haaland's overall body of work at Manchester City has become heading into this new chapter. Since joining the club, he has found the back of the net an extraordinary number of times relative to his total appearances, a strike rate that places him among the most efficient goalscorers the Premier League has ever seen. That established track record is precisely why City remain so confident heading into this new managerial era, understanding that regardless of tactical adjustments, they possess arguably the most clinical finisher in world football, locked into their squad for years to come. For a club navigating the uncertainty of a major managerial transition, having that level of proven firepower returning from a record-breaking World Cup campaign provides a significant foundation to build around. Part of why this transition matters so much to American fans comes down to the emotional investment built up over the course of the World Cup itself. Casual fans who had never previously followed Manchester City or the Premier League at all suddenly found themselves curious about where Haaland would play his club football next, a level of attention that would have been almost unthinkable for most American sports fans before this summer. Social media reactions to his return to England reflected that same curiosity, with fans expressing genuine interest in following his club season the same way they had followed his World Cup run, even joking that watching him play for Manchester City now felt like watching a favourite television character return for a new season after an unforgettable summer finale. This growing curiosity has not gone unnoticed by broadcasters and streaming platforms either. American sports media outlets have increasingly highlighted Premier League viewership trends among casual fans, discovering the league for the first time following major international tournaments, and industry analysts have pointed to individual breakout stars like Haaland as key drivers of that expanding audience. With City's pre-season tour and eventual Premier League matches widely available through streaming platforms accessible in the United States, there is a genuine expectation among those tracking these viewership trends that a meaningful number of newly minted Haaland fans will continue tuning in throughout the upcoming season, extending the World Cup's cultural impact well beyond the tournament itself. This entire storyline reflects something significant about how thoroughly the World Cup reshaped casual American engagement with international soccer more broadly. Before this tournament, the idea of large numbers of American sports fans tracking a Norwegian striker's pre-season schedule with an English club would have seemed unlikely at best. Yet here we are, with genuine curiosity building around Haaland's move into Manchester City's new era under Maresca, proof that the emotional connections built during a single World Cup can carry over into an entirely different competition altogether. That kind of sustained crossover interest is exactly what soccer's growing American audience has been hoping to see, evidence that this summer's breakout moment was not simply a passing trend, but potentially the beginning of a much longer relationship between American fans and the sport's biggest global stars. As Manchester City's pre-season tour gets underway and the club works toward opening their Premier League campaign at home against Bournemouth on August 23rd, all eyes will be on how quickly Haaland can shift from international tournament hero back into his familiar club rhythm. With a new manager implementing his own tactical vision and a roster still evolving around him, there are genuine questions about how his role might shift heading into this new era. Even as his individual quality remains beyond question, the Community Shield clash against Arsenal will likely serve as the first true test of how Maresca intends to deploy his star striker under competitive circumstances, giving fans an early glimpse of what the upcoming season might look like before Premier League play begins in earnest. For American fans who spent this summer falling in love with his World Cup run, this next chapter offers a chance to keep following his story in an entirely new context. Whether that means tuning into preseason friendlies in Asia, or simply keeping an eye on how his season unfolds once the real competitive fixtures start counting. At the end of the day, Haaland's return to England marks the official close of one of the most unexpected and memorable storylines in recent American sports history, a summer where an entire country fell for a player representing a nation few had ever paid close attention to before. Whether or not that same level of attention carries fully into his club season with Manchester City remains to be seen. But the early signs, from streaming trends to social media engagement, suggest that American fans are not quite ready to let go of the connection this World Cup helped build. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you are subscribed so you catch our coverage of his return to action the moment it happens, because after a summer like this one, there is no telling how far this story might still go.